Well, I made a video a couple weeks ago, I think. I don't know if it was a couple weeks ago, but a couple months ago, regardless, about something called Tifa Karma. And Tifa Karma has been something that's been going on in the community for a very long time. To give you a short synopsis of it, it essentially means that when you try to badmouth Tifa in some sort of way, or try to like claim something about the Final Fantasy VII story that is just not the correct interpretation of it, Tifa Karma comes in and essentially Square Enix delivers something that goes against what those claims are made. And most of the time, it happens like about a couple days after such claims are made. But once again, Tifa Karma happened again. And the reason why, or why Tifa Karma happened again, is simply because in Ever Crisis, they're currently doing a high school alternate universe, type of event. And in this event, essentially, they talk about, Cloud's motivation for why he wanted to become the best brawler. Why he no longer, helps out Tifa whenever she asks him and stuff like that. And it's revealed as to why. Like, it reveals the incident to really make Cloud, start that journey to become the best brawler, and Tifa's concerns about him and his well-being. And the reason why this is Tifa Karma is because prior to this, there was some folks in the Final Fantasy VII community that believed that Cloud's real goal, the real reason why he wanted to become a soldier, is because he wanted to be just like his hero Sephiroth. Right? I also made another video as to why I think that's not necessarily the reason, and that the real reason for Cloud wanting to become, a soldier, really runs more deeper into Cloud's psychology and essentially why he wanted to get stronger. You can also check that video out as well. But there's no Sephiroth in this event. There probably will be in the second, really big half of this event, because I think they're going to do something with the Shinra Academy stuff, with a lot of first soldier characters that's going to be involved in there. But there's no Sephiroth. In this alternate universe setting and story, it's revealed as to why Cloud wanted to get stronger. It's revealed, of course, that Cloud and Tifa were eventually caught by some bullies and they were bullied, and that Zack came in and saved them, and essentially, yay, he saved both Cloud and Tifa. Cloud, however, felt, kind of embarrassed and felt weak in regards to it. So he wanted to take, the first brawler, position away from Zack, so that it proves to not only himself but to Tifa that he is strong enough. That what happened with the bullies will never happen again as long as he's around, because he's strong. This replicates very similarly to what happens in the actual Final Fantasy VII story. Cloud gets involved in the Mount Nebo incident, where he follows Tifa, the other boys leave, Cloud essentially tries to prevent Tifa from going to the mountain, the bridge collapses, he goes, tries and, save Tifa when she falls, and he unfortunately fails. But he himself feels guilty over it. Essentially, it's the same thing. He feels guilty over what happened, and he wanted to become strong so that an incident like that, where he is strong enough to protect the people he cares about, especially Tifa, will never happen again. And we know this is for especially Tifa because in 2000 Ways to a Gil, a short story written by, the author and the scenario writer of Final Fantasy VII, he states that he's doing it for Tifa because he promised her, and really it's a more deep psychological thing with Cloud that you eventually learn in the live stream, which even in this alternate universe scenario that is written for Ever Crisis speaks about it. Speaks about the life stream sequence and why he wanted to be stronger, which was to, be strong for Tifa. It's literally there. It's literally replicating the actual story of Final Fantasy VII through this alternate universe side story, right? It's important to know this because so many people think that they are trying to change the story, that they're going to make something different in regards to it. But that's not what they're doing. Even Hamaguchi went on for the Nintendo Switch video about Final Fantasy VII Remake coming to Nintendo Switch 2. He literally reiterates that they are revisiting the story, they're remaking the story. So the idea that the devs keep saying this, that the devs keep talking about this, that they're not going to be changing anything, but they're going to essentially remake the entire story, just add a few things here and there. They've been saying this. And literally, you are proven once again that they are planning on doing it by actually introducing parts of the main story of Final Fantasy VII in this alternate universe setting. There are so many connections as you play through this side story, where it connects directly through the story of Final Fantasy VII, about the live stream sequence, about who Cloud is, his fake persona, why he has his fake persona. Zack and Aerith's relationship is also, showcased in this event, right? Even Zack and Aerith shippers got a huge scenario between them, right? And he even proves that, where some people believe that if Zack never existed, Cloud and Aerith would get closer. Aerith would actually have strong feelings for Cloud, if Zack never existed. But this proved from the side story that that doesn't happen. That if Zack did exist, Aerith would still be looking at Zack. In fact, the interaction between Cloud and Aerith was literally them fighting because Cloud accidentally stepped on her flowers. They are literally painting it. They're literally showing you it through Ever Crisis, right? So there's a lot of misconception, a lot of misinterpretations of a lot of things within, the story of Final Fantasy VII, whether it be the characters or like the characters' motivations or like what the characters do. There's a lot of this. I'm not saying that your interpretation shouldn't exist and that you shouldn't feel that this is the proper interpretation, but when the story itself goes against what you're essentially saying, your misinterpretation or mischaracterization, it doesn't make sense to continue following what you want to say, what you want, the story to be, because it's not what's happening. It's not what the devs are doing. That's the part that really gets me a lot of the times, because they're literally painting, they're literally showing you visually through this alternate universe scenario, as well as like what they've been saying, that they are not changing anything with the remake trilogy, right? They're not going to do anything big. They're not going to make major changes. They're going to keep every single story be intact the way the original story was. You can argue and disagree with some of the takes and some of the changes that they did make, but I don't think you can make the argument that they are changing the exact story beats, because most of the story beats are exactly the same. And I've mentioned this several times in many of my videos. The point I'm trying to make here is this. You are allowed any interpretation you wish, right? If you want a headcanon, you can have a headcanon. There's nothing wrong with that. But when the story is telling you something and you're trying to paint your interpretation as what is true and what is canon, you're going to get a lot of people who actually follow the story. You're going to get them and they will argue with you. It's just, that's how it works. Again, I don't want you to feel like your interpretation and like who you want to ship is wrong. It's not. You can ship Cloud and Aerith. You are more than welcome to. I will never ever sway someone from shipping them. But you are allowed to ship without coming after what the story is trying to tell you, right? I get it. You want to win. I get it. You want your ship to become canon. But if the story and the way it's flowing is not following what your interpretations are, you cannot force it to be canon. And I think that's part of the problem. Now, of course, you could, sit on the monitor watching me, listening to me and say, well, you're a Cloud and Tifa fan, so why should I listen to you, right? What if I think your interpretation is, incorrect? What if I think you're misinterpreting everything? You know what? You have every right to tell me that. You have every right to say that, right? But think back and think, is that following what the story is going through? If it doesn't, then maybe you should rethink it. But again, you don't have to do anything I say. You are free to make your own interpretations. But when you try to force it onto others, that's where it can go a little wrong. And you can also claim that I'm forcing it on you. You're right. I apologize for that. That's not my intention. My intention is simply just that maybe there's something else going on that the devs are trying to tell you that a lot of people are not seeing. And it's not even just shippers. It's also a lot of theory people who try to paint something much bigger in the Final Fantasy VII story than just simplifying it and realizing you're not going to get this wide, multi-universal, scenario. You're not going to get that because that's not what they're trying to do, and they've been telling you this all the time. You can make the argument that they're just, lying because they don't want to reveal the entire truth. Sure, that could happen. I don't know what's happening in Part 3. Neither does anyone else. But all we have right now is just to go by what the words that the devs say, right? And I think that at this point in time, there's nothing to suggest that they're going to make big changes that will actually do like this grand, overhaul of the Final Fantasy VII story, right? You could point to, Zack being alive as that being as, something that, completely, discredits my argument. I disagree, because Zack being there is just telling you a certain part of the story that's going to lead to essentially, what happens in Advent Children, which is something that they even said will lead into. Like, I'm not saying all this as some sort of like gotcha or like trying to, dissuade you from like thinking your interpretation is wrong. It's just I'm telling you things that they have said and things that they have told you, and it's just like when I see certain mischaracterizations, like Tifa's a bully, or like Tifa and Cloud were never really friends, and stuff like that, where there's several pieces of information where like that is proven wrong. That, for example, like I mentioned before in this video, that Cloud became strong and wanted to become a hero because he wanted to be just like Sephiroth, his hero. When the story, when this event, when everything else is pointing you to that not being the case. So, I get it. It may sound like I'm being a little conceited. It may sound like I'm being trying to tell you that you can't do any of this stuff, but I'm not trying to. I'm just trying to give you my point of view as to why I think you are misinterpreting things, and that's where a lot of the conflict and a lot of the drama occurs within the Final Fantasy VII community when it comes to talking about the story and the lore. This includes, stuff about shipping. This includes stuff about, theories. This includes even about how so many Final Fantasy VII fans thinks that romance is a non-plot point in the story when it is a major plot point in the story. It really is. So many people just do not see that. But again, if you come off from watching this video and feeling that you feel like I'm disrespecting you, I apologize. I am sorry. That was not my intention. I just wanted you to know that the devs, are literally telling you exactly how the story of Final Fantasy VII goes. And, whether or not you believe them, whether or not you think that's what they're doing, you have every right to think that. But you also need to understand that I have the right to think that what the devs are telling me and how the devs are painting it in this alternate universe as well is how the story goes. And so many other Cloud and Tifa fans, and a lot of other people who follow the story understand. And again, you can have your interpretations, but trying to force them is never a good thing, especially when they are very outlandish, like Tifa is a bully. Like those type of interpretations, you're trying too hard at that point. But yeah, again, I want to apologize if you feel like this video offended you in any sort of way, or you felt like I was telling you that you shouldn't interpret or feel any sort of way about the story. I apologize. I just wanted to talk about this because it did happen just a couple hours ago, and it's just funny that like Tifa Karma hit again, right? And yeah, so again, I apologize. I am very sorry if you feel that way. So thank you so much for watching. I'll see you guys next time. All right.